Happy Friday, and thank you so much for joining me for this week's Cloud Title Tip of the Week. And this week, I want to talk about equitable interest in title. What does this mean? I have agents come to me once in a while that are working with investors or that are working with a buyer that is looking to purchase a property, and they say, you know, the seller on this property is not the seller that is in the public records with respect to the property appraiser's office or the vesting deed. What's going on here? Florida is very unique in a sense that when somebody puts a property under contract, they then have equitable interest in title. And what does that mean? They have the ability to actually turn around and sell that property, list it for sale, or rent the property. Obviously, their closing can't happen until they actually close on the property, but they're able to sell the property even though they don't quote unquote own it yet because they have equitable interest in title. And so that can bring up some interesting circumstances. And as there's more investor activity, which will tick up again as the market begins to stagnate and there's more inventory coming online, you're going to see this. So two scenarios that you might deal with as a real estate agent is scenario one, an investor comes to you and either already put a property on a contract that they found themselves as a, for sale by owner, and they ask you to list it for them, and they're not yet the title owner of record, or you're working with a buyer that is purchasing a property and it'll just say owner of record on the contract or in the MLS paperwork. And your question then is, okay, how can this work? How can this be legal? Well, again, because of equitable interest in title, it's perfectly legal for an investor. Wholesalers do this all the time to put something on the contract, then turn around and list it for sale in hope, of course, that they're going to get another buyer that is going to pay more than their contract price is. Likewise, you are going to run into a situation once in a while where you represent a buyer that is purchasing a property. And again, the seller, quote unquote, is not the record title owner on public record. So what do you do with that? Well, your obligation is to make sure that who is selling the property actually does have equitable interest in title. And this is where things get tricky sometimes. So an investor might have a company, ABC Wholesale Inc., that is putting the property under contract, but then a different entity or person is selling it. Or they may put the property under contract under their own personal name and then have their entity sell the property. And that might be a challenge because the entity selling the property does not have equitable interest in title because they're not the buyer on the contract unless there was an assignment provision and they assigned the contract. So the key thing is to really study the chain of events between the original owner, the record owner of title, their initial sales contract, and who is the buyer on that contract, and is that buyer the seller on the next contract. This is a situation where you want to consult with an experienced title agent. I've been a very active real estate investor for 2 decades now, or an attorney that specializes in it to give you guidance and let you know what is needed. Usually, these transactions do not involve any nefarious intent. It's simply a wholesaler that is spending a lot of time trying to find good deals and then turns around and sells them. But we still got to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And many times title companies don't do that due diligence. They just take the contract that they're given and they run with it. And then all of a sudden, a week or 2 weeks before closing, there is a quote unquote problem because things don't match. So make sure you work with someone that is experienced in these matters. And again, Cloud Title, I have to toot my horn here. Cloud Title is very experienced with these type of scenarios. If you have any questions, whether it is you're about to take a listing and you don't know, if it's all copacetic, or you are working with a buyer and you're not sure, is this deal legit here, then please feel free to reach out to me at any time. You can direct message me, you can email me, you can go to our website, or you can comment here on this post, and I'll be happy to take a look at what you have and let you know what you need to have in place in order to make sure that there are no unforeseen challenges come closing. I hope you found this helpful. As always, we're going to do this every single Friday. If you want to have them delivered in your email inbox, simply click on the link in the description if you're watching this on social media or YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time. Have an amazing Friday and weekend ahead. Until next week, I'm Thomas Hyman with Cloud Title.